Hello, everyone. I give you a warm welcome to this episode number 7 of the series of interviews that I will be conducting to all the European players who qualified for the Worlds in Anaheim 2025. And this episode guest is going to be Nesabethan. So welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi. So introduce yourself a little bit. And so what you do for a living, your name, how old are you, and how did you start playing Pokemon Go?
So I'm Andrew, real name. I'm 34, I think. I lose track at this point.
You look young.
I'll take it. I do consulting work. The question was, how did I get into the game to start with?
Yeah.
To start with, I didn't really play the game that much. But after about a year into the game, I moved to another part of the country, and I knew a few people around there. I had I was doing fewer other things with my time, and it was kind of a convenient thing that I could play while walking around. I guess that was kind of how I started getting into the game. And then I started making friends in the local area, so on and so forth, who also played the game. And I started playing PvP when Sylph tournaments originally started, like the very first season of Sylph tournaments, because our community was like one of the early starters of Sylph. So I can remember all of the old metas of the old grassroots tournaments.
Wasn't playing yet, but yeah, lots of people like true legacy Sylph players like yourself and maybe B-Tenacity as well.
Right. I guess you to some extent that you started a bit later in the. When did you start? Season 3 of Sylph or something like that?
At the end of the season where Forest meta was a thing.
Right.
So maybe at the end of season 2, I guess.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, so it's good to know that you've been there since the very beginning. That's always nice stories. Like Matogalde also is one of the OG Sylph players that kept sticking around for different PvP formats. That's always heartwarming to see all those players that continue to play. That's really nice.
Right.
Yeah, and I have your results of this season in front of me, and so let's have a chat about those.
Sure.
Of course, what stands out is your first place in Buenos Aires. So yeah, which basically gave you the World's ticket and a lot of championship points.
Right.
Was it a special event? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So no money.
No money. Yeah. Well, kind of money. I got the USC Travel Award for it, and because I live not far from London, the cost of going to USC is minimal for me. So that I kind of got to keep that money.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, the Thameslink price is not as high as the. So I can also see that you've been a consistent Ariados enjoyer across the events, except for the very first one and the very last one.
Yes.
So any reason why you actually didn't use it in Dortmund?
I think in Dortmund, I mean, it was when Ariados had only just sort of started taking off, only a few people were using it, and I was aware of it, and I thought it was decent, but I guess I hadn't really been sold on Ariados yet. So I ended up, I think I ended up taking the structure of someone else's team and making one or two changes. And Ariados sadly didn't end up in that team.
Yeah, well, but overall across the board, I can see that you perform pretty consistently. The only flaw in your season recap, graphics, is the little performance.
Yeah, my worst ever play Pokemon tournament.
Yes, what happened there? Was it because the team wasn't good enough, or just you were very unlucky with the pairings?
Possibly a mixture of things. I hadn't prepared much for Lille. I hadn't really done that much practice for it. Well, I don't think I've done any practice actually. So that probably didn't help. I think my first round opponent was a decent player. Or maybe my second round opponent, I forget which one. And I remember making a couple of like unlucky line calls that I ended up getting punished for. As for gameplay mistakes, it's always hard with play Pokemon tournaments because if you're not on stream, you don't get to review your own battles later to see what mistakes you made. So I can't fully remember everything that went wrong in Lille.
There's a fortunate that you can't just send yourself the recordings for just subsequent examination. That's something that I probably would like to see. It's a novel element introduced from next season. It's also pretty easy once you have logged in with your Google account just to upload your recordings on your Google Drive.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe in the future they will implement this. I can also see that you use the Drapion plus Dunspa score for 3 regionals, for 3 events in a row. So Gdańsk, Buenos Aires, and LAIC.
The Bohm team from Lille. I did terribly in Lille. I copied the guy who won it, and then had 3 solid tournaments.
Also, Malama has been a thing for. Oh yeah, Now actually noticing, you use the same team for 3 regionals.
Yeah.
And then you kept using Aridos in Birmingham and London.
Yeah. I still rated Aridos after that.
Yeah, and you ended up falling back to Diggersby in the last regional, like in your first one.
Yeah. I guess in that meta,
it was a different meta.
Super common, so it was a bit more favorable to Diggersby at that point.
Yeah, and besides the obvious answer, which is going to be Buenos Aires, but any other moment you really enjoyed in your season?
That is the obvious answer. I guess I could say I've been able to play against a few of my friends and teammates in play Pokemon tournaments. I played against Colin in Dortmund. I played against a Sim in Birmingham, Anakor, and it's kind of more friendly playing against someone able to talk about the battles more afterwards, hate them a little bit if they beat you.
Are you willing to face someone in particular at Worlds?
Am I willing? Did you say?
Just to face someone in particular in Worlds in your bracket, in your group, or.
Are you saying is there someone I'd want to face, or someone who I wouldn't want to face?
Something that you are hoping to face.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe just to get your revenge, or just because you haven't battled.
Oh, revenge. I mean, ideally, you want to have an easy draw, right? That's better. As for revenge, I don't know. I think a lot of the people who've beaten me are good opponents who deserve to win. So
not many easy draws at Worlds, I'm afraid. But
yeah, and with the lack of seeding as well, it's a bit of a luck shot sometimes.
Yeah, and someone that you actually wouldn't want to face at all, instead.
Ooh, wouldn't want to face at all. I mean,
or at least the latest spot and just as late as possible.
I mean, there's a lot of good players in the world, but I guess maybe I should give a shout out to some of the players who I know, like David. PvP David's extremely good player. He hasn't done that many tournaments, but I wouldn't fancy my chances against him too often. I've scrimmed against him loads, and I can beat him sometimes, but he'd be a challenging opponent. I guess Colin as well, obviously great European record. Maxwell, Emmy Weedle, he's had a bit more of an inconsistent play Pokemon season, but outside of play Pokemon, he's still been very strong player. So I guess they'd be good names.
Yeah, not his most brilliant season for sure, but he's still qualified for Worlds, so nothing really to be ashamed of, and still gonna chase this title in August. And who was the toughest player you actually faced this season? The toughest one player. After the battles, maybe when you were the most exhausted, energy drained.
Energy drained. I mean, I guess it's a bit more draining if you have to play 3 rounds. I guess the most draining was Grand Finals in Buenos Aires, because I had to do best of 5 and then another best of 5. And also it was very late because the whole tournament in Buenos Aires was in one day, so it was getting to like 10:30 p.m. or something in the second half of the Grand Finals. So yeah, draining. That was like the most fatiguing experience. As for best player, I mean, I've played quite a few really good players before. I mean, I played Colin in Dortmund, I've already mentioned. In Buenos Aires, I think I played three champions. Javier won a special event. Steinar won 2, I think. I forget exactly how many. And obviously Rajev's won a lot. Who else have I played who's a really good player? I played Zuilas twice, I think, and he beat me both times in Gdansk and in Dortmund. I played Scaffo in Gdansk. There's probably some other good players who I've forgotten about as well.
Yeah, I think you faced Raging Taz in Lille.
Yeah, I think he might have been.
Yeah, it must be one of those. Yeah, should be one of those opponents that you played against. And any match or any best of 3 or best of 5 that still, if you're thinking about it, you still have some sad feelings lingering for how you played or how you didn't play certain scenarios.
I think in Birmingham, so I ended up 9th in Birmingham, so 1 win short of getting the top 8 for the like big jump in points and the prize money. And I remember in my games against Anakor, I mean, he generally played well, and he had like my team didn't cover Unova and Stumpus very well, so he was able to exploit that to some extent. But I remember making a misplay in game 1 and a misplay in game 2 as well, and because it was such a whether it would have led to a win or not. I think in game 2 it probably would have led to a win. In game 1, I'm not sure. But because it was such an important round and it ended up costing me money and cost me like quite a lot of points, I guess going back and thinking that could have been done slightly better is something you always think about.
So you're not usually like heavily haunted by your mistakes. Like you usually don't do like heavy aftermath and post-regional considerations and beat yourself up.
I mean,
I do. I do.
Really, so, really, okay. I mean, I guess different people cope in different ways. At some point, you have to move on. Like, it's the only constructive thing you can do. But also, I guess if you move on too easily, then you might not have the motivation to improve, to sort of learn from what you did wrong and keep thinking about it and try to do it better next time. It might, if you move on too quickly, maybe it just leaves your memory.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, you've been playing Pokemon for 3 years now, so I suppose after a certain point, you develop a thicker skin.
Probably,
compared to the rest of less experienced players. I consider myself a less experienced player in this format, for example. So, yeah, maybe just how do you cope with the pressure, especially the on-stage pressure? I mean, it just makes a huge difference in your outcome and how you perceive your mistakes, how you perceive your your games. And I think just playing or replaying regional after regional after event, you just at the end you will get used to all the set of external pressures that are on you, just starting from the hope not to go O2 pressure, and the hope to get point pressure, the hope not to squander any win conditional stage pressure, and and hope to qualify to world pressure. Altogether, like the more you play, of course, just the less sensitive you are to all this kind of stimuli at some point.
Yeah. I think particularly going on stream, because that's sort of an unfamiliar experience for a lot of people. There's a different that could put a lot of pressure on some people, because you're battling in front of an audience. All of your battles are broadcast. Like everyone can see any mistake you make. I think that could be intimidating for some people as well. But I guess the mental technique is just to not think too much about it, to try to play as if you'd play at home.
A question that I haven't asked to anybody so far, but actually I'm gonna start asking to the next guest as well. Do you usually rewatch your streamed games once you come back home after the regional?
It depends a little bit on how busy I am. I like to be able to see them, if possible, because they're the only games in the tournament where I get to see if I made any mistakes. So usually I try to watch them back. But I mean, it kind of depends on how much time I have as well.
Okay, so you tend to rewatch them even if you know you lost for a bad misplay. And would you still be willing to rewatch it? Even
if I mean, sometimes it's just interesting to see if the commentators notice the mistake as well. But yeah, also sometimes you notice a mistake in the battle, but when you watch it back, you also notice a different way you could have played differently. Because you don't always notice every mistake at the time. Sometimes on a rewatch you can see something different. So yeah, even if you feel bad about a loss, I think it's good to try to learn as much from it as you can.
Yeah, and so remaining in the area of like developing a preparation, a thick skin for the format over the years, has your playstyle evolved? And if so, which way?
I mean, I think everyone's playstyle progresses to some extent. I think over time, the general skill level of the player base goes up a little bit. Although maybe as I get older, my concentration gets a little bit worse sometimes. I don't know. But I mean, even then, you develop habits, and you see win conditions faster the more times you've been in that situation. Because some win conditions can be quite rare, and so even if you know of them, to actually apply them in the situation they occur, sometimes you might forget to do. Like perhaps the shield kill win condition is not the most common one, so identifying when you see a shield kill win condition. I think that's the sort of thing that having played for a long period of time can start to build up, because even if you're only encountering it sort of once every 100 battles or something like that, the more you do battles, the more you have to deal with that sort of thing. And I guess some things just like intuitive feel of the game. Like you can learn to count, and you can learn move timings, and you can learn all of that mathematically. But the more you play, the more you just sort of feel when the moves hit each other, and you can do move timing without even having to work it out.
Yeah, like sort of like rhythm memory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and you make the rhythm yours.
Yeah,
and you see how the puzzle thing have to sound alongside with the bubbles in the trivia and Azuma Chaba. You know that you have to press in that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
or
so
when the damage registers on the two health bars and when it's in synchronization and not.
Yeah. Well, I see sometimes, I mean, probably more often than sometimes, get thrown off guard by the one turn the sync, and I'm still make sometimes the mistake of throwing like the regular way with no desync.
Right.
And when it happens, it's actually, well, just kick yourself for not realizing that actually your opponent was one turn behind, or maybe you were one turn behind and you didn't realize that. And as long as it's short duration fast moves, it's fine. But when you do that, trying to time a bullet seed into an incinerate, and you
miss
you don't realize that either player is one turn desynced. That's game changing.
That's probably quite a good example, actually, the bullet seed one into incinerate, because I guess if you have 2-turn move against incinerate, then after 5 you see them sync. So if you're used to that rhythm, you know you can then do 2 more. But with the bullet seed into incinerate, they only sync after 5 bullet seeds. So the sync is much later, and so if you're trying to get used to that rhythm, it's much easier to miss it earlier, and then you do 3 bullet seeds, you a 1-turn lag, they sneak and incinerate. I think that's quite a good example where it's easy to make a mistake.
Yeah, and still staying within the preparation section of these questions, but how much of your regional preparation has been like centered on team building this year?
Well, for 3 of my tournaments, I stole a team, so not that much on team building for those 3.
Well, you still let you devise the team, or just spend some time just devising the first Gdansk team, even if you just copied yourself thrice. But I trust you put some effort in.
So after Lille, because Lille was my worst ever tournament, like I think that because it was so bad, and also because I'd been kind of aiming for the EUSC Travel Award, that was my goal for the start of the season. And getting no points from Lille was making that a lot harder. That did motivate me to put in more work, because before play Pokemon tournaments, I hadn't usually done that much in the way of scrims. I'd sort of like looked into a few matchups and thought about my team and some of the team matchups and things. But after Lille, I was much more motivated to prepare. So I did quite a lot. I joined quite a lot of practice tournaments, did quite a lot of scrims before Gdansk. I didn't have that much time to scrim in between Gdansk and Buenos Aires, but I was using the same team and I was already reasonably well prepared with it. So, I definitely put in more preparation at that point. And I guess it's an example of how having a severe loss can affect your mentality a bit.
Would you say scrimming is more important than like matchup theoretical study and team building? Or if you could just say some percentages, what would you say?
Team building is important because it's the Pokemon you get to use and it affects what your opponents are going to use. But I think team building is ideally something you want to get out of the way early if you can, because it's good to be familiar with the team, to know it in a lot of different situations. And in Show 6, you're often having to predict what your opponent's going to use. So if you've played against more teams and you've seen patterns in what people do, that can be useful. And if you're constantly changing up your team, that can make it harder. Like one of quite a good example is with the team I used in those 3 tournaments. Feraligatr with a turn advantage was very dangerous against it, and it took me a bit of time to notice that because I hadn't played against that many Gator teams. It wasn't that common to start with, and when I realized how scary Feraligatr could be with a 1-turn advantage, it started becoming a bit easier to predict people's team compositions when they had a Feraligatr. I think I lost.
We're surely in the back, right?
So usually, and then something that can manage like the Iridos lead and the so against Steinar, I faced this team and he had a Guzzlord and a Feraligatr, and I was just like, maybe game one I can just call that he leaves Guzzlord and sends in Feraligatr, which is hard for me to manage because my only Guzzlord counter is the Azumarill, and I can't counter swap
Ariados to some
down a turn
extent.
into. Yeah, but then if I lead the Ariados, it's just neutral into the Guzzlord. I'm not really countering him. But yeah, I managed, having dealt with that problem before, I managed to make the hard read against him. I led Azumarill into his Guzzlord, and then I predictably swapped the Ariados so that the Gator wouldn't have a turn advantage over me. I think that's the sort of thing that you'd be less likely to get from team building and matchup preparation, because it's the sort of thing, it's sort of like a pattern you'd notice in how people tend to play against you. Or I guess you could get it without scrims if you just look at teams and think what you do as the opponent. But yeah, I do think scrims can help you notice those sorts of patterns.
Yeah, and so did you ever second or triple or quadruple guess yourself before registering a team? Did you ever like last minute change to your team before registering for regional?
Yeah, I definitely have. Some regionals I've wasted too much time team building and then not had enough time scrimming. I guess it's varied the impact that's had on my performance. In Birmingham, actually, I got a bit lucky because that was a tournament where I came up with the team very late. But the team seemed like reasonably decent, apart from the Stunfish weakness I had to deal with at one point. It mostly went smoothly for me. But there have been tournaments where, like Lil, I think I came up with the team like a day before, and then I hadn't done that much practice with it, and obviously that didn't go nearly as well.
Yeah. Maybe it wasn't registered time yet. I don't remember exactly what was around, but I mean, yeah, it was an Ariados meta, it was an Azu meta. Yeah, but
there was talk. I mean, there were quite a few teams that were weak to Registeel, but Registeel is still a bit awkward to use sometimes, particularly when its moves are so close to the 100 energy cap and you can't go over 100. It can make it a bit hard to sweep with, or to like farm up 2 moves with.
Yeah, so you're basically you just force yourself to attempt the undercharge most of the time.
Yeah, in some situations,
gain some energy back, but yeah, this can also just have a ricochet into your end game, and
particularly with lock on only doing 1 damage, and you don't know the opponent's HP. So even if you're a wizard and you judge the undercharge, what should be perfect, you still don't know if they're like an HP weighted Pokemon and you need an extra 6 lock-ons to kill them or something.
Undercharging on Gas Alert, like should be pretty hard, right? Okay, so let's move on to some NAIC discussion, and I'm curious to see, like, what's the usage? What actually you expected? Like, the top 10 probably yes, but the proportion between this Pokemon.
I think I get some things you sort of I'd already seen from practice tournaments coming in, like Diggersby was high usage, Deden was the most popular fairy. I guess Drapion had climbed a little bit, Mandibuzz and Moltres had started climbing a little bit. But the thing that, although it was around, the thing I didn't expect to be quite as high was Dusclops, because on day 2 it was on a very large proportion of teams. And it ended up being on both sides of the grand finals as well.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, people just wanted to have one more neutral option for Titane, and also which could handle Diggersby pretty
unlike Corsola.
neutrally. Pretty neutral. Yeah, and actually seeing Corsola back even after the Nightshade nerf, I don't know how to react to this. I think I have mixed feelings towards Corsola, because it's still a Diggersby heavy meta, but I've seen maybe 10 or 15% of players just having Corsola. So
yeah, I've seen a few around.
Weird.
I guess it's a little bit better into. I think it's better into Lapras than Dusclops.
yes,
I'm not sure what other matchups it does better in. Is it favorable in the head-to-head with Dusclops?
it should be.
Because it can tank a Shadow Punch, can't it?
Yeah,
Um,
I think the two shields should be in Corsola's favor.
Possibly. It's not a matchup I've actually seen because I haven't done that much play in this meta myself. I've just been sort of following what was going on in practice tournaments and NAIC. But yeah, I mean, if it's favorite matchup for Costa, I guess that's one thing in Costa's favor.
Yeah, and also some Greninjas. Those was really surprising to see. There were 8 Greninjas in the whole tournament, and only 3 Araquanids.
Oh, only 3 Arachnids? I didn't know it was that low.
Yeah.
Given it won the tournament, I didn't know it was that low.
yeah, and I think Araquanid was. I mean, the facts demonstrate that Araquanid was hugely overlooked, but probably just the ratio between the people who believe in Araquanid and the average placement of Araquanid users in the tournament was probably the most favorable among all the other.
I don't know how well the other 2 Arachnids did, but one of them won it, so you can't do much better than that.
Yeah, the other one was Doombug, who made day 2.
Doombug used it as well. Oh, so two of the high finishing players were using Arachnid. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, probably Araquanid can be considered the true NAIC winner. If you want to give a trophy to the Pokemon, Araquanid and maybe Drapion as well. What do you think?
I mean, Drapion's been making a bit of a resurgence. The crunch nerf was reasonably mild, so it wasn't affected that much. And it's like it deals with Dusclops. It's like fine into the DNA. It's not even that bad into Diggersby. It's still kind of it's that ghost resist that still has that safety it's always had.
Yeah, I'd be surprised by how safe Drapion was in that regional, especially because the only real counter, was Diggersby.
Yeah,
and too few counter Marowak to scare Drapion off. But for this reason, I trust we're gonna see more Master Lab users, especially because people are already probably sick of the Dene.
Yeah. It's interesting. Claydol had been very popular in previous methods, and then it seems that most have been replaced with Diggersby.
Yeah, I suppose people were kind of worried about Fury Cutters, Bug Bias, but at the end, we didn't see this many Bug Faster Movers, did we? So maybe Claydol would have been a decent option.
I suppose it's also worse into Dusclops than Diggersby and Dusclops.
Oh yes, yeah, there is also Dusclops, but yeah, you probably still. I mean, I guess you can just decide to soft lose a Zero Shield.
You do land a move in the zeros.
Yeah, you do land a move, but unless you want to run it with Shadow Ball now, which might be a decent twist, like Shadow Ball and but what you drop them, because Ice Beam is still needed for Diggersby. So I suppose using Claydol brings more questions than answers. So it makes sense to why people just decided to just leave it on the bench. So what do you anticipate for the next 2 months? If you had a crystal ball, where do you believe the meta is going to shift? In which direction?
I mean, it is a hard question to some extent because we have such limited users to work with. This is the only Play Pokemon tournament before Worlds, or the only one like organized by Play Pokemon on a large scale. I mean, I don't know if I want to make that confident of a prediction.
Just your gut feeling. maybe more flight types to try and just stop the Caesar.
I mean, did you say flying types? Sorry. Oh, fire types. Fire types, right?
Fire, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess fire types still was a favorite against Diggersby. But I mean, there's plenty of things in the meta that are fine against them. Like Credilli became more common again in NAIC compared with the last Play Pokemon tournament, which is like a favorable grass type against Talonflame.
Even though now with Acid, actually, you're not this good now. I mean, you can farm Talonflame down in certain scenarios when Talonflame is already heavily crippled, but yeah, I believe now you lose that extra speed that you needed to outpace Talonflame in the 2 shields.
I guess the Den is another thing that Talonflame has to deal with because electric wasn't as common before.
Yeah. Even though Talonflame still kind of decent against the Den, if you want to shield twice, the Den has to mirror shields.
Right.
Has to spend both shields as well. But any Pokemon that you actually left you disappointed? Maybe you were betting a little bit on them.
I guess there was a bit of an uptick in Quagsire just before NAIC in the Inadequates tournaments because it has reasonably decent typing against the meta. Like you're super effective against Diggersby, you're favorable against Drapion, Den. You throw Stone Edge from Mandibuzz. But I think it wasn't quite as common in NAIC as it looked like it might be. And I don't think a Quagsire team did exceptionally well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it didn't get used much, but yeah, we are already seeing some sort of like Quagsire resurgence because in practice tournaments or in other format tournaments, still for OGL, we are seeing more and more Quagsire now, and it kind of makes sense, I guess, because it's just a very nice core break of the top 2 biggest threats to the meta. Like the two meta centralizers are now Diggersby and Dedenne. So it kind of makes sense that Quagsire now is just going to rise a little bit, or Mud Boys in general, but probably Quag is the most solid. I've seen Swampert as well, but I believe with all these Araquanis, and now we're going to see the field. Well, you do want something that's able to just deals reflected damage to Araquanid.
Yeah, I think Quagsire's also a little bit better into Diggersby because Swampert's Hydro Cannon, even from the shadow, doesn't kill it. It's like the wrong amount of damage to Diggersby.
Yeah, you still need to, right. And so probably the world's meta is going to be, I mean, maybe watching Japan qualifies tomorrow might help us getting a better idea, especially seeing what the crazy Japanese players decide to bring, since they are always very whimsical.
Yeah, I guess it's a different community, different exchange of ideas, people practicing in different environments. You expect something slightly different.
Yeah, I have very traumatic memories of playing against Japanese players in Gym Breakers. I was still in UK with you, and it was a glacial cup. So like season 4, I guess, and I faced 2 Japanese opponents, and they were using Shadow Omastar, which
I vaguely remember that.
Nowhere,
right,
nowhere in Civ tournaments. Yeah. But they kept aligning the Shadow Omastar on my Frost Lassay swap every time.
That does ring a bell, actually. Yeah, I mean, if you lose to Shadow Omastar in LA, in the World's Meta, in Anaheim even, I guess that would be pretty unfortunate.
Yeah, well, yeah, we will see. I'll suspend my verdict until I see more usage there from an official usage source.
Right.
So yeah, we will see. But is there a Pokemon you actually would love to bring so much for Worlds, or just to practice tournaments and hoping it's going to work, but you don't feel brave enough to do that?
Oh, I don't feel brave enough. That's a good question, actually. I don't know. I mean, I've used a couple of spicy picks before, but some of the Pokemon that used to be spicy picks have been buffed, so I don't know. I don't know if I can choose one of those. I guess I love using Sableye, particularly after the foul play pacing buff. So anytime I can use Sableye, I'm happy to. But in this meta, I'm not sure it's really the meta for Sableye, particularly with so many Deden, so many Diggersby.
Yeah, I mean the top 2 Pokemon are just. I mean, actually, Sableye Deden matchup is not this one way. But still, if
in
you
the
get
Den matchup, yeah. The Shadow Claw damage still adds up, yeah.
Yeah, and any OGL pick that is quite hype now that actually you believe it's unnecessary hype?
Unnecessary hype.
Yeah.
Overhyped Pokemon.
Or maybe they just will not perform as good as the hype would suggest.
I mean, surely the most hyped Pokemon now are like the ones that really rose are like the Den. I guess maybe Moltres and Mandos a little bit. I guess Moltres might be a decent pick because it got the fly buff and then it was appearing quite a lot in Inalicos tournaments, but it didn't do that well in NAIC. And it has worse fighting matchups than Mandibuzz, so maybe Moltres could be an example of a slightly overhyped Pokemon. But it's still pretty solid. It's not a bad Pokemon.
Yeah, there is no right question. There's no right answer to this question. It's just more to just get the ball rolling on some sneaky meta discussions. But yeah, of course.
Maybe Araquanid will be overhyped. It wins NEIC, but in the hands of a very good player, and then maybe it can't replicate that performance.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, every time I used Araquanid, okay, it was pre-buff, but every time I used Araquanid, I felt everyone could just stall the timer long enough to switch out again. So the punishing role of Araquanid wasn't really as effective as I wish it would be. But now that Bug-Bite does like more damage,
right.
You are able again to do those farms down that you maybe wanted to do pre-buff and you couldn't make it.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. Probably the overhyped pick that might underperform a little bit. I think it might be at this point the Dene, but not because he's not strong, just because it just assumed the same role that Corsola had when it got released. So strong that people must bring 3 walls in the team to stop it. So,
yeah.
And unless you decide to play hide and seek with your Dedenne, hoping to avoid the Clodsai or the Maslap user or the Diggersby or the Acid user, or God knows what other picks going to be released, maybe Poison Chopper combo as well. So yeah, I don't believe Dedenne is going to be a safe Pokemon to bring, but I recognize I do realize that you can force a lot of lines for your opponent.
Yeah. I mean, Diggersby into Dedenne is one of the strongest examples of RPS in the current meta, because it's like Play Rough doesn't do nearly enough. It's not really a matchup that Den can win, and it's also a very common interaction at the moment.
Yeah, so, and you still lose even if you shoot twice and Diggersby shoots 0 times, you still lose. Right. So yeah, very, very bad. And okay, let's talk about your favorite Pokemon. Is it still Alolan Executor.
Oh, I see. I did like saying Alolan Executor just because it's a funny Pokemon. And I quite liked using Executor back in the old days of Gen 1 Pokemon. I don't know. Yeah, I could put that forward as an option. I guess I should say Poltergeist these days to represent Team Pizza. There's another favorite Pokemon candidate.
Yeah, but yeah, still not PvP relevant moveset for.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
For
yeah, I don't think I'll be doing One and Worlds if I bring in an Executor or a Poltergeist. Well, maybe if it's the plushie, the good luck plushie.
Yeah, or maybe I don't know, after a Dragon Claw Alolan Executor and I don't know, any other nice coverage move. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe something just to hit fairies a little bit harder. I don't even know if
it doesn't have that much time
learned...
to get the moves. It's kind of classy Pokemon.
Yeah, and if you could dominate the PvP scene with any non-meta Pokemon, so if you could have a fantastic result, a guaranteed fantastic result, you get to choose your next signature Pokemon, basically. So What would it be? Probably just Alolan Executor at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if someone lost to me using an Alolan Executor, I would probably be talking about it quite a lot. I mean, getting to humiliate someone with an Alolan Executor is always a plus, I think.
So you said that you play the main game series from Gen 1.
Yeah.
And I assume you were playing Pokemon Blue if you had access to Executor, right?
Yeah.
And I was playing Pokemon Red and I didn't have access to Execute. So yeah.
Right.
Which was who was actually your favorite gym leader back in the day?
Oh, gym leader.
Or Elite Four member.
Elite Four member. I think I kind of liked Agatha. I think was the ghost leader. Just the sort of I guess I just kind of like ghost Pokemon and the theme of the sort of the sinister old lady. I guess Koga was kind of cool because he had his like tricks and things with the invisible walls and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you add to the final vote how cool the gym was, yes, probably Koga is one of the winners. Also Giovanni, because like you had the Team Rocket platforms you had to ride on.
Yeah, and Giovanni is a bit of I guess a bit more of a plot twist leader because he wasn't there to start with, and then you're chasing him down through Team Rocket, and then he ends up being the gym leader.
Yeah, well, I will never forget Game Freak from choosing an Italian person to represent the organized crime.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that's my personal battle with Game Freak, but yeah, we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
maybe he was Italian American. It was meant to represent.
Yeah, I mean even
American
worse.
enough, yeah. Is that worse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so double stereotypes. Because we already got the stereotypes from the Americans about that.
Right,
so,
I see, and then it's compounded.
Yes, it was a nested stereotype. But so if you were gym leader, not necessarily for Gen 1, but all gen gym leader, what would your badge look like? And maybe your main typing. You can choose dual typing if you want.
Oh, favorite type? That's a good question, actually. I guess Psychic type's kind of cool, just because you have psychic abilities, right? You can levitate things. Like thinking about it in a real world sense, anyway. I guess Psychic type is kind of cool. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's always a tricky question. Lots of guests are still thinking about it. But yeah, let's tap into your experience with the locals and with the cups and challenges. So besides attending the same locals I attend, you also had the chance to attend something more closer to you, to your home, to the city you're based in. So near Brighton, something like that, right?
Yeah. There's like 3 towns on the south coast that do tournaments, and so they're often the easiest ones for me to get to. So I've done locals at those a few times.
Yeah, that's actually a very nice thing to do. Like 3 different stores potentially to attend to.
Yeah.
That's already a notable amount of like attempts and try and maxing your local points out.
Yeah.
That's nice. I'm still sad that I don't have anything in Cambridge. They don't want
Really?
to.
That is
Yeah, they
unfortunate.
don't want to organize anything for Pokemon Go. They do have for TCG, but they believe they are already fine with it. But I mean, they just need to give me 2 tables.
Yeah. One of the towns I normally go to on the south coast recently said that they haven't been having enough attendance for Pokemon Go, so they might stop doing it, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I guess because the Pokemon Go locals, particularly in smaller towns, can attract like single-digit numbers of people, the stores aren't always that motivated by them.
Yeah, and by the way, UK has currently probably, alongside with Netherlands, like the most stacked local scene.
In London, maybe. Yeah, maybe. It kind of varies as well because as people start maxing out their points, they stop going to as many tournaments. So yeah, it's different at different points in the season. How hard they are.
I stopped going after March, I think.
Right.
Yeah, when I knew that I would qualify, I just decided, okay, I will just save some money, and I won't go. I will not be taking the train back and forth for this weekend. Just I didn't really need to, but yeah, that's why I really need something just closer to my house. And yeah, I don't have anything based in Cambridge, which is still sad. But yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is
that is unfortunate.
Yeah, we will see. Maybe for next season they will rework the point system once again and maybe find a new balance. We don't know what's gonna. We don't know what's gonna happen. But the first, like 2 years ago, no, the last year, it was too easy to qualify just going to locals.
It made up a larger proportion of your points.
Yeah, this year is heavily focused on going well in major events.
Yeah, I think if you cap on the people who qualify for Worlds were in Europe, I think about 700 roughly, something like that. And the most you could get from locals was what, 240. So it ended up being just over a third of what you needed to qualify for Worlds.
Yeah,
in Europe.
Do you believe this is a good balance?
I mean, I guess my understanding was the previous Worlds, they had too many people who qualified for the event. They hadn't been intending to host that many people. So I guess the main reason why they made it a little bit harder to qualify is because of that. And previously, it wasn't the top 50 in the region who qualified. It was people who got over a points threshold. So it was kind of open-ended how many people could qualify.
Yeah.
I guess this makes sense. It makes sense reducing the number of people who qualify. And I guess if you're going to do that, making the more important events count for more kind of makes sense as well.
Yeah. I'm not convinced yet of this system because it just you feel almost forced to attend regional after regional after regional, just trying not to miss the big group of the top 50, and
right.
So it just, I don't know, you just have the qualification anxiety that just comes with you every time you go to a regional, because you know that you don't have a minimum threshold to consider yourself safe.
Right.
And this might just negatively affect your mental health in some cases, but also just maybe you're not living the full experience just with a peace of mind, because you just have to run around. You just have to run after a score hoping to improve it. But yeah, I have no idea whether they are going to change this.
Right. I guess the worst thing about it is you don't know whether you've done enough. So you might have got 600 points and you thought that was more than enough because last season 500 was the threshold, I think.
400.
Say again? 400. Oh, 400 was it? Okay, right.
Yeah, it was even lower.
Right. And then you get to the end of the season, you decide you've probably done enough. You don't do the last couple of tournaments, and then a bunch of people overtake you, and it's a bit late to do anything about it. That's probably one of the worst things.
Yeah, but what we can discuss about other type of changes. So, what changes or reworks would you love to see in the game? And this is true for both PvP changes or like more move update changes, but also PvP mechanic changes.
I guess mechanics. I mean, obviously, there's a couple of bugs that still need to be fixed. Like, it'd be nice if Diri was more consistent. If one-turn lag when you bring in a Pokemon didn't happen. So yeah, fixing the bugs would be nice. I guess the accessibility improvement, not to do with the battles themselves, but accessibility improvement would be to make charge gems not random, to make them cycle through moves instead or some other mechanic, so that people who had a more predictable number of TMs they would have to spend. As for battle mechanics, I guess it's kind of tricky because like they did a mechanical change for this year, reducing the switch clock to 50, but it's quite a minor mechanical change. It doesn't fundamentally change how people think about the game that much. So if they added a major mechanical change, like adding in status or a third charge move or something like that, some people would be really excited about it, but also some people would feel like they're just playing a different game. So I imagine it would have a mixed reception. It depends on how they implement it.
Would you like to see the status problem just be explored a little bit more deep?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there were a couple of moves where they took the status problem, but they gave it a kind of Pokemon Go translation. Like I think Icy Wind lowers your speed. Well, okay, not a status example. What's a better example? I think there are a couple of moves that do a status effect in the main series, and then in Pokemon Go it got translated as a stat change. Off the top of my head, I've forgotten which ones.
Yeah, well, probably Poison Fang.
Yeah, Poison.
Yeah,
that's a good example. Yeah. So I guess they have considered the status effect from the other games, but they haven't implemented it as a sort of kind of unique thing distinguished from stat effects. I guess if Poison Fang got reworked so that your opponent's HP actually dropped regularly for the rest of the game.
Well, yeah, that will be probably just too much. But yeah, for example, I would like the fight type charge moves to be reworked a little bit more extensively, because in the main series game, majority of fight type moves have a non-zero chance to burn your opponent.
Right.
Yeah, so maybe at least a 10% of attack drop chance for.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that.
Yeah, for the Pokemon translation would be I don't know, maybe welcome. At least I would welcome some more potential attack drop for fight type charge moves.
Yeah, it would represent the burn mechanic. I think RNG is like quite a controversial thing in Pokemon Go, because although in the main series it's extremely common and people are used to it, in Pokemon Go, I guess people like their game to be about the skill of counting and matchups and things. And when a move suddenly debuffs them on a 10% chance, people complain about it a bit more.
Yeah, or just imagine the critical hits.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we have what, Night Slash and Cross Poison with the boosted critical hit chance. And they've represented that as the 1 in 8 chance of the double attack boost.
Yeah, and the other well-known move that used to give a critical hit like 100% of the time in the main series was like Razor Leaf. It was probably glitched mechanic.
Okay, right.
Yeah, it was a glitch mechanic because
Yeah.
Razor Leaf and Slash used to give 100% critical attack.
Yeah, hit. I think if I remember correctly, it was affected by the user's speed stat. So like Persian had basically 100% chance of a critical hit with Slash, but some slower Pokemon it wasn't 100. I might have misremembered that though.
Well, that would be cool. And also, maybe something that I would really love to see implemented more is, for example, Grass Knot in the main series game is supposed to deal more damage as your opponent's Pokemon weight increases.
Right.
And
Like with Heavy
I
Slam
wouldn't
as well.
mind to, I wouldn't mind
the reverse,
to see this. I wouldn't mind to see this implemented as well as Heavy Slam.
Right.
Also. But yeah,
I guess that would be interesting because it would, in theory, it would still fit inside Pokemon Go mechanics because the only difference would be the damage in certain matchups, but the damage wouldn't be determined by current things like the defense stat and the typing. It would be a whole other variable that's affecting the damage of the move.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm just throwing some ideas off the table, but
right.
Yeah, on one hand, I'm actually excited for some from some of these potential changes that I'm speculating about. On the other hand, I'm really afraid that if they start touching something like this, I don't know. Yeah,
they don't have the best record. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe just better off being overly cautious with this and try and enjoy the game in this current state. Because yeah, if ain't particularly broke, don't try and fix it.
Right. Yeah, the changes to PvP that we've seen recently have mostly been moveset changes. And the last year we had a lot of them. The last year's probably been the biggest year of rapid changes in the played Pokemon meta since it started. Because I think the first season the meta was pretty stable most of the time. In the second season with the Noctowl Trevenant, it was reasonably stable until Trevenant got nerfed. We had Medicham and Lickitung around for a long time. Gligar stayed around for like a year. This has been like the season where we've had the biggest changes in like multiple.
Yeah, Medicham has been around for like 2 or 3 years. And yeah, in this season we had 3 very large meta rotations with a lot of upsets.
Yeah.
So many super strong Pokemon just lost all of their glory in a 3 months time twice. So yeah, I mean, I do like this. I do like this kind of, this way of releasing updates. I do love very, very substantial updates with a lot of fish to fry every time.
Yeah. It does generate more interest.
Yeah, for sure. So we are about to close the interview, but yeah, you have now your space to tell the audience where they can find you if you do some coaching, your social media links. So yeah, feel free to share.
I mean, I guess I'm a bit lazy with social media. I don't use Twitter that often. I haven't tried doing coaching. It's probably not a bad idea because you can make some money from it, and also it's just fun teaching people, like trying to convey the things you've learned over the years.
Yeah.
But at the moment, that's not something I'm offering. So
okay, maybe next year after you win World.
Well, we'll see.
Okay, so Andrew, it's been a great pleasure to share with you. I hope you had a good time. Get better soon.
Oh yeah. Been like slightly under the weather the last few days, but it's not the worst virus of that.
But I'll trust you're gonna be 100% in strength for Anaheim.
I hope so.
Yeah, so looking forward to see you in person in 2 months, if not earlier. And so have a great rest of your night and take care.
Cool, yeah. See you around.
Bye.